And welcome everyone to our second day of celebrating Kwanzaa. We are here with our Black and Brown community leaders, gardeners, and farmers to talk about self-determination. We're here to discuss how each of them, as they go through their work, are reimagining Black landscapes, Black nature, and our role as stewards of the land and of our communities as well. So before we get into the meat and green things of our discussion, each of them is going to come on to discuss a little bit about what they do and why they do it. So Mr. Emmanuel, if you could start us off.
Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Emmanuel. I am the founder of the Black Orchid Foundation, which is a nonprofit centered around mobile archive building, and I'm very thankful to be here.
Hi, my name is Prince Dorvalis. I'm with Infinite Zion Farms.
And what do you do, Prince? What did you do for Zion? Come on,
I'm
man.
just out here giving back to the community.
Okay.
Sure. So my name is Sherette Worthen, and I'm here with my husband, Raymond Worthen, and we are co-founders of Infinite Zion Farms. All piloted, though, with the thought leadership of my husband here. You want to tell them a little bit more about the organization?
Yes, this is Ray Warden, founder of Infinite Zion Farms. We run a nonprofit, downtown urban farm, downtown Orlando. And yeah, we started an urban farm, urban garden. It's growing exponentially, and glad to be here to be a part of the event here.
I think it's my turn, I guess. All right, I am Nico. I'm with Seeds for Health, and I'm partnered with Infinite Zion Farms. What I do is I make sure that all of the beautiful produce that we are growing, we make colorful recipes with them. I teach people how to get back to a natural way of eating, help to guide them and empower them on being able to walk through the garden and feeling like they can make a meal from what's in season. So I would say I'm kind of like a chef and maybe like a curator of our CSA bags.
Yeah, she
And I'm
pretty much,
happy.
yeah, she pretty much runs the kitchen, like he keeps us in line in the kitchen there. So thank you.
And I am your host, Sydney Rose McCall, a team member over at the Association to Preserve the Eatonville Community. I work over in our museum, the Zora National Museum of Fine Arts, where I meet with community members, like some of our amazing people here, and start to talk about and reimagine not just Eatonville, but also our Central Florida community and beyond, through a multitude of different lenses. One of the beautiful things about Zora Neale Hurston's legacy is that she was able to reimagine life outside of the barriers that racism and prejudice and sexism have often put in play. And that's also what our land stewards have done in their own ways. They might not know it, but they're also doing that as well. So before we get into our discussion, we're going to have a moment for our Kwanzaa lighting ceremony. Those of you who are following along, might be your first time celebrating Kwanzaa. Today's theme is self-determination, also known as Kujichagulia, the second principle of Kwanzaa, which symbolized by lighting the first red candle on the Kinara. So we got our light here so we can do that.
That's Kujichagulia.
Kujichagulia. Happiness. So the significance of Kujichagulia is that it encourages us to define, name, create, and speak for ourselves instead of being defined, named, created for, and spoken for by others. When we talk about self-determination, when it comes to land stewardship, it goes beyond that. This idea of self-determination for your community, for yourself, and everyone in your space as well. So as we go forward, keep that in mind. How is it that you are practicing self-determination in your community and also in your own home and also as you move forward as land stewards? And that actually goes into our first discussion point for our speakers. How did each of you begin your journey in land stewardship and outdoorsmanship or outdoorswomanship?
Okay, I'll go first. So my land stewardship actually started out from a generational and ancestral standpoint, from farming, urban farming. It started out as a passion. I've always done those type of activities with my father, and he was a fourth generation farmer. Obviously, my grandfather's fifth generation. Excuse me, dating back to the days of Northern Georgia, where we come from. And Googling Northern Georgia, there is a property that we now own for over 100 years, 76 acres there, where my father was born. So I come from a family of farmers as well, and great legacy to be a part of. And rolling over to my, like up to, I'll give a whole timeline of my farming history. I get a lot of questions about what does this guy come out of farming out of nowhere. Along with my father, going back from an ancestral standpoint, my wife gave me the honor of getting me the 23andMe DNA kit, and kind of found out I'm a paternal descendant of Pharaoh Ramses III. And Pharaoh Ramses III, looking him up, he was known for farming and gardening. So who'd have known that my lineage goes back to thousand years, not just from a generation, but also an ancestral standpoint. And Northern Georgia was home of Georgia's oldest jail. So speaking from a historical aspect, my father grew up on a farm. He didn't have to work on the farm anymore, but our whole backyard was full of tropical trees. Growing up in South Florida, West Palm Beach, we grew up more as tropical trees. My great grandmother grew up in Live Oak Lake City with North Florida. So I grew up learning both styles of North Florida farming and South Florida farming, which are very different, and also the different grow zones. So, in losing my father to prostate cancer at age 59, that sparked me to also learn about alkaline and city-based eating. And that sparked me to create an environment where, excuse me, minorities can learn about better eating habits, because we're so high on the food chain or the ailments of high blood pressure, stroke, diabetes, heart attack, due to we're eating food that's not of our culture. So I wanted to definitely create an environment and space of comfort and non-judgment where people can come out and learn about the foods of the culture, the people, and the history. And Infinite Zion Farms, the design was done by Prince. Many people love our logo, so thank you, Prince, for designing the logo for us there. But that passion, losing my father, had 3 beautiful children now that will never know their father. So it was just a great adventure on it. And starting in the Central Florida, we came out to Poplar. We started on a 20-acre farm site. And that's where our first beginnings, from a 20-acre farm, now to an urban farm downtown, and now to our own 10-acre land, because we realized the importance of owning land was owning your own. We built out so many other people's properties and farms. There's nothing better than building out your own property. So from that timeline to today, that passion grew from Apopka to downtown Orlando to now own land of 10 acres that we own ourselves.
All right. I would say for me, in terms of preservation, one, again, thank you for having me on this platform. But also, what got me into preservation is my father. My father was very big into history, and growing up, he used to teach me a lot about real Black history, not the Black history that the education school system would teach. You know, I grew up in South Florida, Miami and Broward County. And, so growing up at the time, like I was knowing about the Black Panther Party and Marcus Garvey and the Haitian Revolution and Afro-Caribbean history and things like that. So when I would get tested at school, I would still be able to pass the classes, even though like I knew like the questions were, the history wasn't really accurate. So that was what really got me into preservation work as well. That's what started it. That was the appetizer, and then it was 2 people that really amplified it another level. Was Marvin Dunn, the author of Black Miami in the 20th century, and he did a documentary on Black Miami on Amazon Prime. And it was Dr. Kitty Oliver, A Race and Change in Hollywood, Florida, which is a book she wrote, and that really amplified me to want to know where I'm at, because there's so much Black history that I'm knowing globally, then it's like I need to know about the Black history in my backyard. And that's what inspired me to do the work that I've been doing in terms of preservation of documentary filmmaking, as well as starting my own special collections, which is my own archives, which is located at the African American Research Library in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Nice. As for me, it's not as, magnificent as these two gentlemen, but I grew up in the city. But growing up in the city, I always had a knack, or I was always interested in growing plants, even in pots, or if there was soil, I tried to grow something there. And when Ray came to me about his vision, I was not only interested and excited about it, but I was also intrigued on how we can, impact the community on that level. So it really piqued my interest. And since then, I've been 10 toes down with Infinite Zion Farms.
Nico, do you want? I think Nico went. I think Nico went already, correct? I think Shrek.
Nico, did you want an opportunity to go?
Oh, while we're waiting for
Oh,
Nico, Sherette, would you like to share a little bit about your background and how you found yourself in the space of land stewardship?
Yeah, so as mentioned before, when Ray had the idea of starting an urban garden, an urban farm, that was a passion for him. But for me, the essence of it was really about thinking of all of the people in the community who didn't have access to fresh produce, right? And so really allowing this to be a platform that would help people in many ways of the word. So having them find a place where they can learn about the fresh produce that they consume, and then having organic produce available so that we're filling a gap where people who don't have access, who can't just jump in their car and drive to the supermarket necessarily, can have fresh produce at their fingertips, and creating fulfilling a need in the community. And so that's where my passion lies within the organization, is really connecting the resources that we're able to grow and put our effort and energy into growing these fresh produce and connecting it to the people who are so desperately in need of getting that access to these items. Unfortunately, cancer, high blood pressure, heart disease, all of these ailments are directly tied to nutrition. And so if there's a way that what we can do can mitigate those issues for our people, for Black and Brown people in our community, then full force ahead and let's combat it as quickly as possible.
And I know for a lot of young folks, especially in Black and Brown spaces, when we think about farming, when we think about going outdoors and working the land, there's a lot of uncomfortable memories that come into mind, particularly the connection between Black Americans, Black Caribbeans, and the transatlantic slave trade, followed by Jim Crow and the sharecropping economic system. So I'm curious, with all of you in your respective fields, in your respective work, what are some of the ways that you're addressing that history, especially when it comes to young people who might not be as open to the idea of working the land because of our history when it comes to working land and agriculture?
So yes, I think I think COVID-19 really brought to the surface of the importance that people understood, because as someone said, Walmart doesn't make tomatoes, they sell tomatoes. And COVID-19 was a big slap in the face when people realized, wait a minute, we need to start growing our own produce. We need to start growing our own, crops, not only because of the chemicals and the petroleum-based stuff they put on the plants. And it's unfortunate that event happened, but it was a big awakening that was needed for the community and everyone to realize, wait a minute, when all the stores running out of produce, and you can ask Prince Charette, we had a freezer full of greens, tomatoes, mustards. We were sitting kind of arrogant because our freezer was full. We never worried about, oh my God, the store's running out of produce. And when we were handing out 55-gallon bags of collard greens and mustards right there in Paramore. And that's what really put us on the map. People realized, wait a minute, y'all growing 500 pounds of produce on a 0.3 acre lot? And I said, yes. And that's being nice. We're harvesting more than that now. So I think people, we're bringing to the forefront of how important it is about owning your own land and growing your own crops and owning the land versus renting or leasing the land that you grow on. There's a big difference in your profits, ownership, what you can and what you cannot do. And that's what I want to bring to the table and show people the urban farm. People realize, people who really come to volunteer with us realize it's not just about urban farming. We're doing a whole lot more with urban farming, aeroponics, and teaching about hydroponics, making compost teas. So the stewardship, I tend to the land because for me, that is my blessing, my passion. And it's also a therapeutic for myself, being a spiritual tie connection to my dad, because that's why I feel my father's presence. So the stewardship for me is just not about tending the land, but it's important to understand that renting your land, leasing your land is a whole lot different than owning your own property. And even for us, it was a challenge in finding our own property as well, because not everybody was inviting about buying our property that we've been looking for. There are places where people question, well, who are you? Why are you buying this property? And what makes you a farmer? And I had to explain myself to these particular people as, well, here's who I am, here's what we're doing, and here's why we're doing it. So stewardship and ownership is very important and key to the property, and also owning your own land as well. So I'll let Shret's coming in with the little one. Arya's up now, and she is speaking about, can you repeat the question for Shret? Sorry about that, I went on the tangent.
Oh, most definitely. So as we're talking about this uncomfortable history that is connected to the slave trade and to segregation and sharecropping, what are some of the ways that you are using your work to educate young folks, especially Black young folks, about the importance of farming and land stewardship, even with that history?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, really understanding where your food comes is critical, right? I think kids have more of an appreciation for the fruits and vegetables that they eat when they understand where it comes from. There's a sense of pride, and there's a sense of hard work and resiliency that comes from working hard and understanding where your food comes from. And so when kids come out to the garden, I think it's crucial to really reinforce the hard work, the dedication that goes into it, and instill a sense of pride. Not only are we farmers, but we're also professionals. And so seeing examples of Black professionals who are doing this, who are excelling, who are united, who are, raising a family that looks like theirs and setting an example in a way that maybe they don't see in their own lives, right? And holding up a mirror for really trying to set the bar high and hold up a mirror for Black excellence. And I think that in doing so, it gives young people the courage to go for it for themselves, right? And so it's not only about farming, but it's just the example in of itself that I think is crucial that our young kids need. And it's a very not only rewarding activity, but it's something that is positive that they're doing outside of all the negative things that they could be engaging in, right? And so it's a positive outlet for growth, for burning out the energy, and for learning.
And from a historical standpoint, I want to speak to the loss of property through my own relatives, Julius July Perry, which is my great-great uncle. So it's almost a drive as to understanding what happened to your family historically. It also made the turning tide as, yes, I want to gather this thing and I want to show people, because we had the Popular Honor Society, the Black Honor Society, come out to a farm, our urban farm downtown, and they thought all I did was farm. And I realized, no, I'm a project manager for Brightline High Speed Rail on top of farming as well. So I basically worked 2 full-time jobs. And the teacher came to me and said, thank you for showing those students that representation, because they don't have an image. Their whole image of a Black farmer is some sort of undereducated figure that's poor. And I understand no, we're professionals that are doing this as well. But going back to my own great uncle, that property he lost will never be taken back. And there's a long history standing that has happened within my own family as well. So it's kind of personal for me to understand the history of what happened to my own family, and as well as with the passion of the father and helping the kids understand there's a whole new image. We're redefining what the Black farmer looks like. It's not just farming, we're also professionals as well.
Absolutely. And I think that even goes into a lot of the work that Emmanuel does as well. So I'm curious from your perspective, Emmanuel, with your work in history spaces and in landscapes and discussing the history with a lot of our community elders, what are some of the misconceptions that you hear when it comes to land stewardship, when it comes to history, and how are you talking and using your platform to re-educate young folks, especially when it comes to land stewardship?
Great question. I would say for me, it's just using art as a way to bridge the gap, because we had to find creative elements to teach people and highlight history. So being able to do documentary filmmaking, because that way people are being not just educated, but they're being entertained while being educated. So it's like a very effective way to teach people. As well as contemporary art spaces. So like, doing curating art exhibitions with a theme centered around, for example, we did a Broward Art and Soul experience. We did two. We did one in Pompano at the Historic Allied Cultural Center and in Fort Lauderdale at the Old Dillard Museum, where it was paying homage to Broward's Black history through art. So there was paintings of Esther Rowe from Good Times and Miss Blanche Ely, who was the first Black woman to be principal in Broward County, and who brought the free lunch schools, the free lunch to like public schools at the time. So it was through her and Dr. Sistrunk and many other pioneers who paved the way. So being able to use art is very crucial, I feel. So we had to collaborate with Black creatives, Black filmmakers and videographers and contemporary artists, so we could bridge the gap, because we had to find ways to, I feel, entertain, because many people have like my generation and younger have like I don't want to say ADHD, but our attention span is a little bit short. So just doing the typical education of history to me is I don't want to say it's outdated, but we had to find other elements. So using art like filmmaking and contemporary art like paintings can be very effective, and can also be able to help the artists as well with their craft, as well as even put money in their pockets as well. So that's one of the ways like I've been able to make it happen, was connecting with artists.
And you actually brought up something that I want to bounce back to Raymond and Sherette, and other speakers feel welcome to chime in as well. This idea of reimagining how we talk about history. You brought up how some of the ways that we talk about history aren't necessarily accessible to our young folks, especially. So I'm curious with you, Raymond, and you, Sherette, as well. What are some of the ways that you're also reimagining how it is that we're talking about this history with young people, how we're talking about farming, art, and culture with our young folks?
Yes, I want to bring history to the forefront of helping them understand. From my experience of being on the farm, it saddens me how much our people have forgotten. It saddens me to see how unskilled our people are, and culturally, how it's just, we have so many volunteers who are, who look like us, and you come out and they don't know what the shovel or rake or action hoe or just a scaffold hoe, just some different tools, and trying to bring back the element of this is we're the pioneers of agriculture, and bringing them to the garden and showing them, one by one. That's why I don't allow too many large groups. I want to give them just a simple presentation of here's what real garden is about. Here's why it happened. This is what this is the tool our ancestors used. Is here's how you use it. And we've lost that craft of survival to the point it saddens me. And every Black community is dependent upon outside resources for their survival. I've rarely seen very few people that came to the garden actually knew what they were talking about, knew how to grow, knew about soil. And it saddens me. So I definitely take that as a point every time I have students come out to teach them culturally in the historical aspect and impact, understand that I'm not just a farmer, I'm also a professional, but teach them culturally how to use the tools, how to make compost teas, how to make wood ash tea like my great grandmother taught me years ago to help us in the garden in Apopka, and our crops almost died, and tell them we're growing this because we have an option. Back then, we didn't have an option. You either grew 500 pounds or you get 300 lashes. So help them understand culturally how much it impacts the soil. And once they taste, the beauty of it is, once they taste our produce, and Prince will tell you, Prince tried our broccoli. Prince wasn't even a broccoli fan, but he tried the broccoli years ago, way back in the Apopka. And just the taste out in the garden of growing on produce, it was beautiful. And having the kids grow their own produce and try their own produce, make them liable for their own raised bed. That's what our program is going to be. We're going to give you a raised bed, but you're going to be responsible for taking care of it. We're going to use soil, compost, the plants, but make those kids liable for their growing their own produce. And when they taste their own reward of what they grow on, it changes the whole concept perception.
For me, I can say one advantage that we were able to capitalize on is when we had our farmers market, the farm was actually there. So even though we had our farmers market, we were able to go out there and still do work. And so while they're watching, they'll come over because they're interested, and we'll get them to work too. And while they're doing it, they're like, oh, this is not as hard as I thought it would be, right? So actually being on site, giving them the opportunity to, get hands-on, really motivated a lot of people to come back. So that's one thing I've learned was, actually giving them the opportunity to come out and, pull out the carrot. We have families that came out every other week with their kids just to harvest carrots. That's all they did. And also, outside looking in, you're referring to the labor. For me, it's very calming. So that was something I also encouraged or, told people when I was on the farm, this is something that's very relaxing for me. Even though we're out there, we're busting our butt, but when it's all said and done, the final product is it's worth it. It's worth it when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and we have veterans who have PTSD, traumatic. We have people who have been through death in their family because gardening has been proven to be therapeutic. And we've got many people from many walks of life that have come out there, and they'll tell you this is the most peace I've ever had. My life has changed from coming out to the garden because of the natural work and pure energy that we put into the garden. So it goes a long way.
Yeah, I was going to also say, going back to your original question, I was reading an article just this morning, and forgive me if I misquote the specific numbers, but generally there are about 45,000 Black farmers in the country today. That's less than 2% of all farmers. Previously, Black farmers owned, over 100 million acres of land in America. And all of that ownership, the majority of that ownership is now in the hands of white farmers. Even this past year, we had the farm bill that was passed. And white farmers basically sued and said that this was basically reparations, and it was basically, just what do you call it? Like, it's unjust, right? Because they're getting the money simply because they're Black. And that is just egregious, right? Just the thought of that, because historically we know that the USDA and the United States government, they have systemically created a system where we are disadvantaged, where we don't get the resources and funding, we don't get access to loans, access to a lot of the other privileges that inherently, once applied for, the white farmers would get access to. And so, just understanding that history of the United States, I mean, it's really unfortunate that here we are today, and the wrongs are trying to be righted, right? And so we're still going through that cycle.
Yeah, it hasn't changed. I mean, it's just a lot. We're still fighting through, even with our own property. We know it's going to be a challenge to acquire different things because the scales have always been unbalanced. And the saddest part is more systemic than anything else.
Yeah.
I'll deal with this there.
So, hopefully that that can be reversed, right? And so we can get access, we in general, Black farmers in general can get access to that capital, freed up, rightfully so, to provide more opportunities in this space. So hopefully we can continue to move that front from an education standpoint, get people on board to back the legislation in place to provide that access to resources.
I think she said, and period.
Yes. Yes.
But I think it almost kind of blends into the third day of Kwanzaa as well, this idea of collective responsibility and accountability as well. But in this tradition of Kwanzaa, what are some ways that we can start to bring our elders and our young folks and people of multi-generations collectively to a single space of understanding? Because when we talk about farming, when we talk about art, when we talk about culture, especially in Black spaces, it's often a very diverse pool of understanding, folklore, traditions, and histories. So what are some of the ways that we can start to reimagine how we approach those folks, especially when it comes to our elders in the community and their history with the land and with land stewardship and art and culture? Emmanuel, if you'd like to start us off.
Yeah, I would definitely say finding common ground between folks, between the younger and the older. And I would say an issue like gentrification is something that can definitely bring old folks and young folks together. The elders usually have generational wealth or some sort of generational wealth to some degree due to being segregated at the times of these historical Black communities. So they may have like land and property and things like that to their name. And the younger folks, like the millennials and Gen Zs, we have the vision and foresight for the future. And then the elders have the generational wealth or the access to resources. So we bring both together. And I feel as if that's a great way to bring both sides together, because it's a common issue that we both are dealing with.
So yeah, I think what we've done in the past, and that's what Emmanuel's point is with bringing the elder and the young generation together is food. We've had many events where food brings all people and cultures together. So you bring people to the garden, and we have we're going to hopefully get the cake back up. We've been so busy with Taco Tuesdays when Nico comes out and she does these vegan-based tacos using, I guess, I hope she won't kill me. Nico, don't kill me. It's palm hearts.
Heart of palms.
Heart of palms. So, but the principle is utilizing food to bring people together, both old and new. We've done it before. We had old and new come to the garden, and we started breaking out different tools. Oh, you know about this, and mainly a lot of the Haitian culture and Jamaican culture, they come out. Oh, man, we use this cushion in our country, blah blah blah, and it's great combination of using food and different events to bring people together that we've done before that have been very beneficial to bringing the elders and the new generation together to speak on the history and importance of what we're doing.
So I think generational is one aspect, but just uniting collectively as a Black network has a lot of value as well. We've talked about different collaborations that we could have within the community, because together we're stronger, right? We can't continue to have this crab in a barrel mentality. And so we have these partnerships like with Seeds for Health and a new partnership coming up to help have the garden be a hub for men to come together around a fire pit and have really honest conversations about mental health. Right. And so, yeah, it doesn't have anything specifically to do with gardening, but we have a resource that can be leveraged to better our community. So why not do so? So I think that is also part of our collective responsibility to build each other up. So we're together, we're stronger.
And I think we also have a partner who's actually back in the motherland, Mr. Sharice Shabazz, our two corporations were Zion Farms and Market, and he's Infinite Roots. So Mr. Shabazz left here over a year ago. He left to go to Ghana, Africa. He felt bad. I said, brother, don't go. Go rebuild the motherland. And we're actually in partnership with him as well. He's actually building a solar powered parking garage. And he just purchased 5 acres of land over there as well. So our partnership with him extends well beyond the coast of the US. We're actually helping him and supporting him, tools, equipment, whatever it may be. And I speak to him probably on a every month basis. He'll send me an update. I'll call him. Last time I spoke to him is right on the back of a truck going to some other part of Ghana to another farm. And just having those type of collectives as a people to expand that bridges to tie back to the motherland to help people understand this is way bigger than the US. We got to tap into the motherland to help rebuild our own, because China's now to grow a lot over there. So it's best we get our hand in the pot, because China's over there now. They just rebuilt Tanzania. So people have to pay attention. Right now in Kemet, they have over 4,000 greenhouses they're growing produce for Africa and China right now. So it's best to understand globally what we're doing here, what's important, and what's in the US. Yeah. I can go on and on. I don't want to go.
No.
Yeah, okay.
But
okay,
I think
sorry.
I think that there's something that's so powerful about that, right? Like this combination of understanding how land is important, how art is important, how culture is important, and all of these various intersections. But I think all of you have spoken on this to an extent about just this importance of bringing generations together, this importance of having this discussion, not just with young folks, not just with the elders in the communities, but bringing people together over food, over art, over music, over all of these different things that can really help us reimagine our space. Because if there's one thing that Black folks do not have in short supply, it's culture. So how is it that we take our culture and reimagine it in our land stewardship, in our spaces of history? And I think it's something that, especially after this year of a pandemic, last year of the pandemic, people are really talking about that reimagining, this emphasis on gardening. Oh, yes.
And we just purchased our own 10 acres of property, and we want to start having future cultural events on our own farm. We're building a real deal farm, so that I'm glad to be a part to also express. We want to start that narrative as being on the all Black Upika farm. We have now over 1,875 orange trees that we own now, of the Sugar Bell, Honey Bell, and Hamlin oranges. I want to show people what a Black farm looks like and be one of the first places we can actually go out to a minority-owned farm and have a cultural experience and teach about African roots from old to new. So just wanted to share that as well.
In my opinion, I feel based on what Ray and Emmanuel said, ties in, being able to add the art and including the food, that would, gap in the, shorten the bridge, right? To invite everyone to come and be involved in fellowship and learn and reconnect with nature. So I agree with both.
And I'm curious from all of you as well, as today is talking about self-determination. What does self-determination look like to you? What does it look like going forward, reimagining our Black and Brown spaces? Emmanuel, I can see the wheels turning in your mind.
Yeah. I'm just wanted you to repeat the beginning part again. I'm sorry.
So what does self-determination look like to you? What does self-determination look like in your work as we continue reimagining our history, our food, our connection to the land, both the land here in Central Florida and beyond as well?
Yeah, great question. Definitely just being able to talk to your neighbors. But, we really got to bridge the gap between elders and youth. Just my personal opinion, because a lot of them are leaving us and we're not getting their stories or anything. And then with communities being taken away, with redevelopment and so much happening, the stories aren't there. So it's just easier to even let's wipe things out. So we really just got to be able to, I see it as bridging the gap. And then that creates more ownership between generations. I do have a hard stop at 6, but I just wanted just to say that.
Yeah, so I think for self-determination for me is really about pushing forward beyond all obstacles. And currently, there are a lot of obstacles ahead of us, right? In fulfilling the mission that we've set for our organization, and really just thinking about all of the ways in which we can continue to march forward, overcome so much political, so many political layers that you probably wouldn't even believe in this space. But really
no comment on that. I'm just stay quiet. Yeah.
Really being able to navigate the waters appropriately and just push forward, right? And so that involves leaning in with the help of our volunteers, with the help of our community, our advocates, and really laying a groundwork so that we set clear goals for ourselves and hold ourselves accountable. Hold ourselves accountable in a way that really helps us move the needle forward, because unfortunately, it's really easy to just be like, oh, I'll get to that later. I'll do that later, right? And so trying to set a new bar for ourselves. And that for me is what self-determination is about, so that we can meet our goals.
For me, self-determination is the consistency. One thing I appreciate about our group is that we keep moving forward, regardless if it's a step, 2 steps, or a big jump. We stay moving forward regardless the obstacles, the red tape that we foreseen coming when we started off. But just the consistency of the drive. Like everyone has lives, family, kids, a profession, but the willingness and the consistency of always coming back together and back to the farm and pushing the agenda of, you know what, we know our community need this. Let's provide the resources and the produce for our community and stick with it. It's been a long time coming, but people are starting to see the fruit of their labor. And me personally, I'm just excited. So that's the self-determination for me, just the consistency that we are on moving forward.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'll wait.
No. I was just like, yes to all of it. Everyone has just said such amazing things.
Self-determination for me, being the founder of Zion, is not letting the opinion of someone else become our reality. And regardless of how much they push against us, you keep pushing forward. And there are many people who want us to fail. So self-determination for me is doing that something that's never been done before as young Black farmers, regardless of the politics, regardless of the narrative changes for you. We've had a narrative change for us as an organization. We've had people wanting to only do certain things for us as an organization that didn't match with who we are and what we're trying to do. Regardless of the funding, I turned down grants that would have funded us very well, but it didn't match to our initiative goals. But our determination is to remain independent and stay focused on the goal of who we are. And self-determination is, regardless whether they support you or not, you put your head down and keep going forward. There will be no audience when you put in the hard work. There will be no audience, everybody clap and say, yeah, good job when you put in the hard work. That comes at the end. And people don't realize, how much work you have to put in, how much sacrifice. I literally put in blood, sweat, and tears and stopped 3 potential murders or allegedly murders while I was out there. So I tell people it's not easy. So you keep pushing forward. Most people get discouraged by seeing those type of things happen, but I stayed out there. I've seen where, things have said, man, what trash on the streets, the streets are full of trash. Things I got discouraged so many times, but that determination of seeing the final vision from becoming a community garden to now making front page newspaper, being the emerald of the city. I stayed the course 2 years straight with or without support. And I'll do the same now. With or without support, no one's gonna stop Zion.
It's like what our executive director in Wine Theory so often says, hold on, hold on, hold on. I think that's something that everyone who's had a Black grandmama at some point has heard something to that rhythm of hold on and keep your eyes on the prize. And I think that really goes to what self-determination is. It's not allowing anybody else's words or perceptions or stereotypes to define your existence. And it's something that we tell our young folks, it's something that our elders have told us time and time again, but it's something that we also have to tell ourselves. We have to believe it as well, that we are more than the words that they put upon us. We are more than these perceptions, because our history is one of resilience. Because I tell people all the time that we got to where we are today without any help. All the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful, and the excellence, it has all come without any additional help. So in order to continue to manifest that, we must go forward with this drumbeat of self-determination, which is what Kwanzaa is about, along with our other 6 principles as well. So as we come to a close for our second day of Kwanzaa, can y'all tell us where we can find you to support your work and the amazing things that you're doing at Infinite Zion Farms?
Oh, you can reach us at www.infinitezionfarms.org, not .com, but .org. You make a mistake all the time. And on the website, you can reach out and you'll find our CSA program, our volunteering, which you need volunteers and support. We have a community supported agriculture program, which literally means community supported agriculture program. So we need volunteers, people come help us harvest the greens, harvest the mustards, harvest the kale, and learn how to wash, store, put away, and sanitize, on the garden. So, and also a donation.
But the community supported agriculture program is basically a weekly subscription where you can pay a low fee of $5 a week if you live in the Paramore area, and get 8 to 10 pounds of fresh produce. And then also you can find us on Facebook at Infinite Zion, at facebook.com/Infinite Zion Farms, and also Instagram
as well
at Infinite Zion Farms.
Yep.
And I would just like to thank everybody who came on to speak with us this evening. Raymond, Charette, Prince, Emmanuel, Neko, who I know is listening in, everybody who's behind the scenes.
Yeah, she's working.
Got a large catered party that just came in the door.
Yeah,
so.
she just texted me now, so a lot of people
Thank you.
But that's the beauty of our community bridge building, is that we show up, even when we working, we still here,
Yeah,
we still in it.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I didn't get a chance. I had a party, 2 parties come in. So I'm so sorry. I missed a lot of it.
Thank
you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Nico. Appreciate you joining in.
Yeah.
Yes, but thank you all so much for coming into this space with us. And this definitely will not be the last time that we all come together in fellowship to talk about our green things and our land and how we can continue to reimagine. And if you would like to support our work here at the Association to preserve the Eatonville community and help bring the legacy of Zora Neale Hurston to life, you can text to give. Or if you would like to show up to our website to find out more about how you can engage with us, you can find us at www.zorafestival.org, also not .com, .org. And there you will find our upcoming Zora Festival schedule, along with other ways that you can support our community programs and our community efforts as we continue to build bridges with our land stewards, with our Central Florida community, and everyone beyond as well. So thank you all so much for joining us. Have a safe day, a safe night, and we'll see you for day 3 of Kwanzaa.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks to Sydney. Manuel, pleasure to meet you. Looking forward to meeting you. All right, take care.